Yes, Catriona Ruane is with me here tonight in the studio. Catriona Ruane, the education system, it's right up the left, isn't it?
Well, that is not absolutely right at all, I have to say. What we're waiting on is proposals. And those proposals will tell us which way the education system is going to go. I can't sit here and tell you a direct answer to your questions. What we have to do is take the time and get this thing right. We can't just turn around and mess with children's lives. They're all our little angels. I am the Minister for Education on this island, and I am the one that will decide when I should decide when the proposals are done and when they should be met. It is all about proposals. Once I make these proposals and I get them proposed by the proposer, it is really all about our children. It's their education, and I am their Minister for Education, and I will do what is absolutely right. As I say, I am the Minister.
For fucking shite. And let me tell you something, Catriona and the Williams. Why don't you get your finger out of your arse and get your mind out of neutral and just get on with doing the job that you're meant to be getting paid to do? You're not doing anything as far as I'm concerned. You're sitting on the fence. Well, Jerry Adams, what have you got to say in response to that? Well, I have to say that I'm absolutely disgusted with the language of our ex-First Minister, Ian Paisley. For him to say that Catriona has to get the finger out of her arse and her mind out of neutral is a disgrace. At least Catriona's got plenty of teeth in her gearbox, which is probably more than I can say for Ian Paisley. Ian Paisley like to come back on that? Yes, well, I'm sure that her gearbox can hold many a gear. But let me tell you this, Ian, I am absolutely disgusted. Because here we had not that long ago Martin McGuinness, who was the Minister of Education, who made an absolute bollocks of his job. And then we have Catriona and the Williams, who is the Minister for Education. And as far as I'm concerned, she is waving goodbye to a perfectly good education system that we had before she arrived at her post. Thank you very much for that, Dr. Paisley. We're going to speak to Willie McRae. Willie McRae, what have you got to say in response to the lack of cohesion from the like of the Minister for Education and, of course, and her reply to some of the colleges and the high schools throughout Northern Ireland?
Well, I just think, just like Ian Paisley has said, there we had Martin McGuinness, Martin Art Garfunkel McGuinness. Not that long ago, he was the Minister for Education here in our beloved province of Northern Ireland. And then what do we get? A fucking numbskull, Catriona Ruane, who thinks she can do a good job at her post as the Minister for Education. Our children are absolutely dumbfounded. They don't know where they're going. They don't know what they're doing. They're running around sniffing glue. They're having sex. They're drinking alcohol. Underage. What a shower of lucky bastards. That's all I got to say. Catriona Ruane, you've got a lot to answer for. Catriona and the Waves, it might as well be waving goodbye to a perfectly good education system that we have.
Now, Robert, what do you think about the education system and about the job that Catriona Ruane's doing?
Well, I think she's making an absolute bollocks of the whole system, because I think she should have got new proposals out and let the schools and the colleges know exactly what her intentions was. But all she's doing is getting paid for nothing. She's sitting up with farmers squashing her hole, and she's doing absolutely nothing, and I think it's disgraceful.
Well, we have Anna Lowe here from the Alliance Party. Anna Lowe, what have you got to say in response to Catriona Ruane?
Well, I don't know something. I think that people in Northern Ireland have the right to education, and have the right to know exactly what the education is. And I think Mrs. Ruane is maybe taking her time and maybe need to hurry up a bit more to let all of the education boards know.
Yes, and Jerry Fitt, what do you say to us in response to Anna Lowe? Anna who? No, it's Anna Lowe.
Anna Lowe.
Anna who? Right, well, Miss Ho, I reckon that you're right, and I think that Catriona Ruane is taking her time, and as soon as she gets this mess sorted out, the better. And Anna Ho, I would say, but
no, it's Anna Lowe. Anna Lowe, A-N-N-A-L-O.
Anna Ho, Anho.
No, fuck's sake. Anna Lowe, A-N-N-A-L-O. Anna Lowe.
Right, just for talk's sake, I'll call you fucking low, alright? Or is it ho, or is it Anna? Now make your fucking mind up. You fucking messed me about here. Jerry, I'll let you know that it's Anna Lowe. Anna Lowe, right? When you fucking say that in the first place. But I agree with Anna Ho. I think that she would, I'd tell you better than that, she'd probably do a better job than Catriona Ruane. In Paisley, what have you got to say in response to Anna Lowe? Yes, well, the boiled rice we got last night was absolutely fantastic, by the way. Very nice. Yes, I think she's hit the nail on the head. We need to get the information across to the education boards, and we need to get it across immediately. Willie McRae?
Yes, well, I have to agree that I agree with Anna Ho, and it's Low, Anna Lowe, sorry, beg your pardon. I agree with her as well. I think Catriona Ruane should take a leaf out of her book. They deserve to know exactly what's going on, because Northern Ireland's coming down with Chinese people, but not as many as there is of Pakistanis, and of course Lithuanians, and the Polish, and the list goes on and on and on. And they're the ones that need to be educated more than us in this province.
Well, I think that is really open to interpretation, to be honest with you, Willie. Now, we've got, as you know, we've got Robert in the studio as well. Robert, what do you think of Anna Lowe's assessment of Catriona Ruane?
Well, I think Anna Ho is the best one here.
Oh, but it's Anna Lowe. Anna Lowe.
Anna Ho?
Anna Lowe. A-N-N-A-A-O.
Oh, sorry, yes, Anna Ho is the best one of the whole lot in the studio.
What the fuck are you talking about, Robert? What are you blubbering about? What do you mean she's the best one? She's the oddest looking fucking one. What do you mean the best one? What are you on about, son?
No, Mr. Foot, I'm just saying that I think Anna Ho is...
Look, Anna Ho is only a guest in here. We've been here all these years, for 25 fucking years we've been here, deliberating, discussing on all these certain... Anna Ho this is the first time Miss Ho's been in here. Mr. Fit, you have to refrain from calling Anna Lowe Anna Ho. She is Anna Lowe. Well, alright, Anna Lowe or whatever her name is. But Ho sounds better than Lowe. How low can you go? You Ho. Right, Jerry, please, that's enough. Jerry Adams, what's your take on this?
Well, first and foremost, I have to say that the language towards towards Miss Anna Lowe has been disgraceful. Nothing short of disgraceful. And I think people should refrain from calling Mrs. Lowe a hoe. Mrs. Lowe is not a hoe. She's a Lowe. Now, to move the process forward, we're talking about Catriona Ruane. We're not talking about Anna Ho or Anna Lowe, I beg your pardon. And give her the time and the patience to do the job that she's going to be doing. That's all I have to say on that.
Martin McGuinness, your opinion on, first and foremost, what Anna Lowe has said in response to Catriona Ruane.
Well, I think that Mrs. Ho has been an absolute delight to have in the Assembly. And Anna Ho knows that... it's Anna Lowe. Anna Lowe. Anna Lowe. I beg your pardon. Anna Lowe has done a terrific job in representing the Chinese community throughout this island. And we have a lot of Chinese, and talking about the restaurants, and some of them are lovely. Mrs. Ho, like I say, has done a terrific job.
Martin, it's actually Anna Lowe. I think everyone in the studio needs to know that it's Anna Lowe and not Ho.
Thank you very much indeed, because I sometimes get very confused, you know, that people call me Ho instead of Low. I like to be called Low, not Ho.
Topic which we're going to discover today is the water rights. You know, a lot of people are not too happy about the water rights. First and foremost, into Jerry Adams on that one. Jerry, is the water rights going to be paid, or are we going to abolish them altogether?
Well, we would hope to abolish the water rate for good.
I think you want to abolish water for good, more like I never mind the bells. Now, hold on a minute, Mr. Paisley. Jerry Adams, please continue.
Well, as I was saying before, again, I'm being rudely interrupted. We do want to try and, because people are paying, don't forget, their house rates, which I would imagine should cover your refuge, your rubbish, your water, and all of that. And we really don't need to be imposed upon by another bill, especially when we've got the credit crunch. People's houses are dropping in price. Everything's dropping in price. And we could do well without that.
Well, Anna Lowe, what's your response to maybe getting rid of the water rights?
You know, I think a very good idea to get rid of water rates, because they're very expensive, you know, everything, and Northern Ireland are very expensive. You know, I think we need to get rid of water rates because everything's too dear.
Thank you very much, Jerry Fit.
Well, as Anna Ho said there, the water rates is it's another tax on the people of Northern Ireland. And it's an absolute disgrace. Who the fuck wants to pay for water when it comes out of the sky for fuck all? I mean, I am astonished that Gordon Brown and that other fruity bastard Donaldson has got away with imposing taxes upon people, one after another. It's an absolute disgrace. And Anna Ho's right.
But excuse me, Terry, it's Anna Ho. Would you like me to call you Jerry Shit instead of Jerry Fit?
Look here, Ho, or Anna Low, or whatever your name is. Anna, don't you call me shit. Jerry Fit.
Well, every time you told me Ho, I call you Shit.
Look, Anna, don't even go there, Low. My name is Gerald Fit, not Gerald Shit. Like your name's Anna Ho, or Anna Low, I beg your pardon. I'll try and call you Low so long as you don't call me Shit.
Okay, no problem.
As I was saying there before I was interrupted by Ho, or Low, I think that the people in Northern Ireland should come out and protest against these rates, these water rates, and every other rate that they're trying to put upon people in this province. Fight like fuck for it. The government know that people are rolling over and dying and not even bother protesting, and they're going to keep on implementing tax after tax after tax. Willie McRae?
Well, I think the water rates is a thing that we should have to pay because we do have a purification system. And I just wish we had some for some of the Sinn Féiners in here today. We do have a purification system which costs a lot of money. The rainwater that comes out of the sky is dirty. It's not clean. So it needs to be purified and cleaned. And that's why we have to pay that extra money to go towards the water rates. And as Anna Ho said, we do pay for an awful lot of things in this province, which is very, very expensive. And Miss Ho knows that because she has her Chinese restaurant as well to run, as well as the Alliance Party. Well, I'm sure she's probably getting more of a result in her restaurant than she is of being a member of the Alliance Party, which to me are a bunch of born-out farts.
Well, Ian Paisley, what's your view on this? What, on the water or the Alliance Party? Well, the water rates was not a problem for Sinn Féin. Should have never used it. So I don't think they're going to have big bills as such. It's only for the likes of us, the Protestants. We're going to end up with the big bills because we use water.
Well, I have to say that I am absolutely disgusted. First and foremost with the ongoing name-calling from Willie, the most hateful bastard in the world, calling Anna Low a hoe. Her name is Anna Low. And then, of course, if Ian Paisley having jibes at the Catholics on our island. And those jibes don't move the process forward, don't get the discussion up and running in any shape or form. And I would say that Willie McRae should lay off the backs of Catholics and leave Anna Ho alone.
Just Mr. Adams, it is Anna Low, not Anna Ho.
Well, sorry, Anna. Well, if I just call you Anna, that'll stop me from calling you a Ho.
Yes, just call me Anna, don't call me Ho.
All right, Anna. As Anna says, we want to move the process forward.
Well, do I have to call her Anna as well? It's not often I get called Mr. Fit or Jenny. Do I have to call? Well, I'll tell you something now. I don't see why Anna Low, or is it Ho? Sorry, I thought I got it right the first time. Anna Ho. I don't see...
Jerry Shit. It is not Anna Ho, it's Anna Low.
Put this way, Anna. What is wrong with Ho?
Because Ho is not my name. Ho, not my name. Low, my name.
Well, Santa Claus goes ho, ho, ho. Your name is Ho, is it not?
No, Jerry Shit, Anna Low.
Right, come on now, Mr. Fit. This is not getting us anywhere. If you could call her by her first name even, that would be fantastic. Right then, I'll call her Anna. Sorry, Anna. You hoagie. Now, we're going to change the subject slightly and talk about Mrs. Robinson, who apparently got tore into the gay community and called them an abomination and immoral, what they stand for and what they do. Now, we do have a member of the Gay Society in here today, and that is Simon. So, Simon, maybe you could tell us what your views on what Mrs. Robinson has said.
Well, I think it's absolutely disgraceful, so it is. Why should we always be the ones that's getting labelled? Why is it always us that is getting all the mud 3 hours all the time? You know, shite sticks.
You should know about that there. You have plenty of it fucking sticking name shit. Oh, Jerry, please calm yourself down. So, Simon, what is your feeling about the minister?
Well, I think she should resign, so she should. Because at the end of the day, we're human beings, you know, we're just like everybody else.
Well, I don't think so, son. You're different from everybody else, but you're with everybody else. That's what the difference is. Right, please, Jerry Adams, hold on. I'll come to you very shortly. Ian Paisley, what's your view of this?
Well, I would say that Mrs. Robinson is right, because at the end of the day, the Democratic Unionist Party don't support that sort of activity. And we do think it's an abomination, and people have to address it. There's no point in skirting around the subject. There's a lot of people in the media, and a lot of people in the press, and politicians, who are only thinking what we have the guts to say. At least we're saying it's an abomination, and it's not right, and they should be castrated.
Right, well, Jerry, fit your comments on, gay people.
Well, there's nothing wrong with it, as long as they're not shoving it down my throat. I don't care. I have nothing really against them. It's just that I don't have anything to put against them. But they, at the same time, I don't like this gay marching on in the city hall, and all them running around with their bollocks hanging out of their knickers. Knickers are for covering fannies, not bollocks. And at the end of the day, that's the thing that I object to. Thank you very much indeed, Jerry Fitt. Going from one Jerry to another Jerry Adams.
Well, I think Mr. Fitt, well, it's not very often I would agree with a sticky bastard like Jerry, but I would say that he does have a point, where we don't mind the gay parades around Belfast, so long as they're done tastefully. Now, I watched, there's one big long-legged blondie one there, I forget what her name is, something Teddy Swamp, or whatever you call it, Teddy Swamp. Now, she's always running around, or he or it, was always running around with tight leotards on, and you can clearly see the conkers hanging out of the undercarriage. And that's really not what our children want to see. Yes, thank you very much indeed. Simon, back to you.
Well, let me tell you something, they weren't conkers. They were something else, but they weren't conkers. They're one of those wee things you can buy in a sack shop. Two of them actually, and they sort of vibrate as they're walking about the streets and all. It's one of those. It wasn't conkers, Mr. Adams.
Well, they look like conkers to me. That's the thing that we object to in Sinn Féin. Right, this story will probably run on and on and on. Anna Lowe, what's your opinion on this?
I think that the gay people should be able to do what they want to do. But like Mr. Adams, the bollocks hanging out of the undercarriage is not very pleasant for people, especially when they're eating Spanish meatballs and spaghetti.
Yes, and Simon?
Well, let me tell you, Mrs. Ho.
To me, it's Anna Lowe. A-N-N-A-L-O, Anna Lowe.
Well, Anna, whatever your name is. It's rich coming from you, actually, to be honest with you, because at the end of the day, the Chinese community have had it very easy in Northern Ireland, and put us up against the Chinese community. We're getting slaughtered left, right and centre. The abuse that we take off the streets, people are turning around and calling us tutti fruities and all that. It's disgraceful. It's no need for it.
Jerry Fitt, would you like to come in? I would. I think Anna Ho has got it right.
Jerry shit. I don't call you shit from now on. Jerry shit. My name is Anna Lowe. A-N-N-A-L-O. Anna Lowe.
All right. Anna. A-N-N-A. Say it. It's not very funny if you're sitting watching the gays in Belfast parading around on their floats. But Jerry Adams has said as well with the conkers hanging out. And you're sitting maybe eating Spanish meatballs, Spanish meatballs and spaghetti. Not very tasteful. I wouldn't like to look at that while I'm eating. Willie McRae, now, what is your take on the gays in Northern Ireland, the parades on the floats, which they have every year in and around the city centre of Belfast?
Well, I want to say this here. I'm not too sure that too many of those people read the Bible, but I do read the Bible. And I read my Bible every night in a week. And I want to say, whenever it says Adam and Eve, it says Adam and Eve. It doesn't say Adam and fucking Adam. It's Adam and Eve. So why don't they get it into their head that it's not normal for two men to be participating in sexual activity? One stroking the log while the other one chops the log. Why is that? That shouldn't be allowed. As far as I'm concerned, it's man and woman, or woman and man, Adam and Eve. That's what it's all about. Read your Bibles. Everybody should read their Bible each and every night in the week, and they'll have their souls cleansed. Don't get excited, Simon. I said souls. That is what is wrong with people.
I know it might sound like a silly question, Simon, but have you heard anything here today that really has changed your opinion on how politicians and guests feel about you?
No, I don't, actually. I just think it's just been a tirade of attacks against me here today. I just feel as though everyone's against us. It's just us, ourselves. It used to be Sinn Féin, ourselves alone. That's the gay community that's on their own. We're not getting any help or support from the politicians.
Well, maybe if you were to reform, because as I know, I think a doctor in Northern Ireland said that he could change us.
What do you mean, Mr. Paisley? What do you mean changes?
Well, he could turn you from being a gay into a guy. That treatment, I think, is available on the National Health Service.
Yes, there's another strain on the National Health Service. We're going to start chopping Charlies off and putting fannies where they shouldn't be. It's an absolute disgrace. Why don't people get it into their head that the National Health Service can't afford to start operating on genitals? It's a disgrace.
Well, we have Robert, of course, as you know as well. Robert, are you familiar with the case?
Well, I haven't really been watching the news. One day I was in the house and somebody touched me.
And what do you mean by that?
Well, I was in the house and some man touched me, so he said it was normal.
It was normal. In what way did he touch you?
Well, he took a run from about 20 yards and stuck his boot in my hole, and I don't know why that was.
Yes, well, okay, I thought you were going the other route there, but did you go to the police about it?
No, I said I was going to go to the police, and he says if I went to the police, he was going to tell me.
Mr. Paisley?
Well, I think you should have went to the police. That's assault. Well, no harm to you, Robert. I'd rather get a boot in the hole than a fruit in the hole.
Well, Simon, have you anything to say to the likes of Jerry Fitt and Robert?
Well, let me tell you something. I'm absolutely disgusted with the language of some of the people here. And there's Mrs. Mrs. Lowe. I can't believe that she was slamming us as well. It's a disgrace. And Robert, fuck me, you've a cheek to slam anybody at the state of him. But let me tell you something. I'm not here to poke fun at everybody else. You know what the problem is here? The problem is here, the curiosity's killing you. You don't know what it's like. You've never tried it. Well, so you say. There's probably a couple of closet toots here, and there's not a one who's got the guts to come out and say he's tried it. That is what the problem is. Curiosity, that's what's killing us. Because let me tell you something. At least we have done something that you'll never do.
Well, who the fuck would want to do what you do? I wouldn't want to do what you do. I'm happy enough doing what I'm doing.
Jerry, I don't care. I don't care what you say or what you think, or Mr. Paisley, or any of the Robinsons or whatever else. There's a couple of closet fruits in here, I'm sure.
I'm not a closet fruit. I got my husband who married me, who loved me very much, and I don't do what you do.
And what is it, Anna, that I do then? You tell me exactly what is it that I do.
Well, you go with another man and you play with his dingaling.
A dingaling? Right, let's get down to the bare facts. What is a fucking dingaling?
Oh, really, please, there's no need for that language.
No, seriously, what's a fucking dingaling?
A dingaling is
That's a fucking doorbell, you silly bastard.
Trust you to come up with that. It's not a doorbell.
Well, it's a bell of some description.
No, let Anna hold her, Anna.
It's Anna. Look, you funny bastard. It's Anna Lowe, okay? A-N-N-A-L-O, Anna Lowe.
Don't you call me that. There's no need for it right now. Anna, answer the question.
What was the question again?
The question was, what's a ding-a-ling?
A dingaling is whenever someone come into a restaurant and they push a little bell, it goes ding-a-ling, ding-a-ling.
For fuck's sake. Is that the best you could get for inviting studio guests? Jesus Christ.
Well, I think that's the end of the matter now, and by the way, anybody does want to know what a ding-a-ling is, if you want the answer, check the Oxford English Dictionary. Thank you.
Yes, of course, as everybody knows, we're in the midst of a very bad credit crunch at the moment, but I do have Jerry Adams here, and a very interesting thing, Jerry, was that Peter Mandelson, of course, who had his fallouts with Gordon Brown, the Prime Minister, Peter Mandelson has indicated that there's no fallout between him and Gordon Brown after Brown bringing him back into the cabinet. What's your view on what Peter Mandelson said about being joined at the hip?
Well, I'll tell you something for nothing. Well, we all know what Peter Mandelson's background is, and I make no excuses for saying it, but we all know that he's gay. And I'm sure Gordon Brown's probably saying to himself, well, thank fuck that he's joined at the hip and not joined at the arse, because I think Gordon Brown would be in serious trouble.
No, but seriously, Jerry, on a serious note, Do you not think that Peter Mandelson will be good for Gordon Brown to stabilise the Labour Party, as they seem to be up against all sorts of things with the economic decline, and of course David Cameron of the Conservative Party really is romping home in the polls?
Well, I would say that Gordon Brown does need a bit of a bailout, and Peter Mandelson, I fear, was probably one of the worst ones he could have brought back, because he's been in and out of government more times than I've been in and out of the wife. And I have to say that I thought he would have brought some more reliable old party faithfuls back into the party, but obviously not.
Well, Willie McRae, I'm sure you have probably got something to say on this matter. What is your view on Peter Mandelson's return?
Well, I just want to say this here. Peter Mandelson never did anybody in Northern Ireland any favours whenever he was over here trying to do the business. I don't think he's going to do any favours for Gordon Brown either. In fact, I would say now that I would like to see Peter Mandelson stepping down immediately, because no one else really wants him. We all know what he is. He's an arse bandit. Nobody wants to have arse bandits in the cabinet. I certainly wouldn't have one in my cabinet. My wardrobe, or my bed for that matter. It's about time to get rid of him. Get rid of Mandelson.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry I pricked a nerve there, and I'm probably sorry I used the word prick as well. Mr. Adams, do you have anything to add to what Willie McRae has said?
Well, I have to say this here, and I really do mean this. I've known Willie McRae for at least 30 years, but I have to say, and I've heard him a few times today, he's got to be the most hateful wee bastard I've ever heard ever on the air. And I really do think that there's no reasoning with him, there's no diplomacy, and I really do repeat what I say, he's a hateful wee bastard.
Jerry Adams is one to talk. He's the most hateful bastard in Northern Ireland. He's the one that murdered, maimed, and tortured everybody in Northern Ireland. I know we're in a new dispensation, but I don't give a fuck. As far as I'm concerned, Jerry Adams is the most hateful bastard in Northern Ireland.
Right, well, thank you very much indeed, Willie McRae. As you can tell, listeners, there really is no change in what's happening in our beloved little province of Northern Ireland. Well, we have Ian Paisley with us, as you well know tonight. Ian Paisley, I'd like to ask a little bit more about, since you've retired from the political scene in Northern Ireland, I'm sure you must sit at home at night wondering what the devil is keeping the likes of Peter Robertson, and who is now, of course, First Minister, and the Deputy First Minister, Martin McGuinness, from reaching some sort of an agreement over the policing and justice debate, which has been ongoing for a long time. We all know we had a bit of a laugh at yourself and Martin McGuinness becoming nicknamed the Chuckle Brothers. What have you got to say about the repertoire between Peter Robertson and Martin McGuinness?
Well, I have to say that there doesn't seem to be any repertoire at all between Martin and Peter Robertson. But I have to say, whenever everybody nicknamed us the Chuckle Brothers, we were also known as the Ever Ready Brothers. More than I can say for Peter and Martin at the minute. They're the Never Ready Brothers. And they don't seem to agree on anything at all. It's an absolute disgrace when everybody used to point the finger at me and say that I was the shit stir that never moved forward with the political scene in Northern Ireland. There's Peter Robertson and Martin McGuinness sitting in their fucking holes at the minute doing absolutely nothing, while every poor pensioner is profit. That's to scrounge the money to either heat or eat, which is an absolute disgrace. Those bastards should be up and storming, thrashing out a deal, bringing in the winter payments immediately to the pensioners. So I think it's about time they got up there and done their bit.
Thank you very much, Shane Paisley, for that. Now, we do have, by special demand, we've got Robert in here tonight. Robert, what's it like to be back after such a long time on the old spitting tapes and the old spitting CDs?
Well, I think it's really nice, so I do. I think I'm really special, so I do.
You can say that again. You just take a look in the mirror, you know how special you are.
Dr. Paisley, please, if you could let him speak. Robert, what do you think of the situation Robert Stormont at the moment? Maybe you could do a better job than Peter Robertson and Martin McGuinness?
Yes, because I think Peter Robertson and Martin McGuinness are two lazy bastards, and they didn't pay it, so they are. And I'm not getting any money for doing anything. And I'm in here today and I'm getting no money for sitting here making a tunt of myself.
Yes, that's absolutely right indeed, Robert. Well, thank you very much indeed. And who are we going to move on to? We actually have a very special
special guest in with us today, who was over in Northern Ireland promoting organic farming. His Royal Highness Prince Charles is here. Prince Charles, what was the purpose really of your visit here today in Northern Ireland?
I have to say that I'm absolutely delighted to tell everybody that organic farming is definitely the way forward. What we have to do is get rid of all these pesticides and all these different kinds of fertilizers, which is very, very dangerous for the shrubs and the plants and vegetables, and also for the environment. I think that the reason why that I was invited over is because of the Kredit Krunch as well, and people have to grow their own.
What do you mean the Kredit Krunch? Let me tell you this, Prince Charles. You said people have to grow their own because of the Kredit Krunch. How long do you think it takes to grow a fucking cabbage? 2 minutes? It takes about 4 months to grow a cabbage. So what do you meant to do in the meantime? When you're starving? Plant a fucking cabbage? And you think it's going to be ready in 2 minutes?
No, Dr. Weiser, that's not what I'm saying. What you're trying to do is manipulate exactly what I was saying. I think what people have to do is look forward to the future and get their shrubs down into the ground and get growing as quick as they possibly can.
Jerry Fitwood, you have grown any vegetables? Oh, many time I agree vegetables. And I tell you now, it's very therapeutic working along with plants and shrubs. And I love getting homemade vegetables, cabbages and turnips, carrots and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I love growing carrots, so I do. I think it's probably my favourite root vegetable, so it is.
Well, I'm not a bit surprised, Simon, that you'd like carrots.
But I don't like those wee early nuts. I like the big dirty carrots. I don't like the clean ones that you get buy in the shop. I like a big dirty carrot.
Hello?
No, no dirty carrot. I like clean carrot. I also like bean sprouts. Also like the cabbage and all sorts of things. I like vegetable, you know.
Yes, okay. Jerry Adams, would you have dabbled in that sort of thing? Oh, yes. Any time I've grown substances, or vegetables, and with us sort of living in West Belfast, not having a garden, and I had to grow my plants up in the attic with the help of fluorescent tubes. And I have to say that they grew enormously quickly.
And what sort of plants were they?
Well, they didn't taste that good, I have to be honest, but the smoke was fucking fantastic, I have to say.
Not McGuinness?
Well, I never really had a garden on Derry, but we had a backyard and I used to grow mushrooms in the back garden. And I was very successful in growing the mushrooms.
I think they were fucking magic mushrooms because you see some of that shit that you come off with in that television, Martin.
Well, Derry, I have to say, I think that is uncalled for. And the new peace and stability that we have on our island, I don't think there's any need for that. But I have to also say that I've grown a few things, wee trees and whatever. I've planted a couple of wee trees. I like to plant.
The old bomb, I'm sure.
Well, I'm going to let on I never heard that there. That is disgraceful. But I have to say, now that I've got a post up at Stormont and I've got a decent wage, I have bought a bigger house. I've got a garden, and yes, I spend a lot of time in the garden.
Simon, would you have a garden?
Oh yes, I do have a wee garden, and it's like your man said earlier on there, it is very therapeutic, so it is. And I like to grow, like I say, carrots. Carrots is my favourite, long as they're big and dirty. And I like to grow onions, and I like to grow tomatoes as well. So
I take it you have a greenhouse?
Oh yes, I have a lovely greenhouse, but it's not green, it's yellow, it's a yellow house.
But it is, the technical name for it is a greenhouse.
But it's not green, it's yellow.
He knows it's yellow, but it's a greenhouse, isn't it? Bit of wood, glass.
No, actually it's aluminium, Jerry.
Right, well, you know what I mean. Don't be trying to get lippy with me, alright? You should lift me.
Well, there's no need for that now, Jerry. We're all talking about vegetables and fruits.
Exactly.
Right, as I was saying, I like to grow carrots, onions, and I also like my tomatoes, and I love cucumbers.
Robert, would you have a good...
Yes, I have a vegetable garden, and I do vegetables in it.
But you're the biggest fucking vegetable in it, if you ask me.
And also I grow parsnips, and I grow radishes, so I do.
Yes, and I'm sure it's very therapeutic for you as well. I take it you spend a lot of time out in the garden.
Yes, I do. But the thing I don't like is when you get all the shite in your nails.
Well, I take it you mean that's soil.
No, it's shite. It's horse shite.
Yes, manure.
No, it's not manure, it's shite.
Well, I think our professional gardeners and farmers would say it's manure, Robert. But anyway, is there anything else you would grow in your garden?
Yes, well, see, when it comes near Christmas time, I like to grow Brussels sprouts, so would I. Because I love Brussels sprouts.
I think you have a Brussels sprout hanging out of your nostrils there, son. You want to go and blow that snatterbox of yours.
Another special guest with us today is Patrick Moore from the Sky at Night, who was down at the Armagh Planetarium last night, talking about stars and planets and solar systems and so forth. No doubt the expert in that field. He's been doing his show now for well on 50 years. Patrick, what's it like to be here in Northern Ireland?
Well, I have to say that I'm absolutely delighted here in Northern Ireland, and what we want to do is look at the planet Venus and the planet Mars. We've also got a telescope here, which I'm going to mount on top of the tripod, and what we do is we open that window, put out the telescope, and look for a star.
What sort of star are you looking for, Patrick?
Well, I don't think that's very nice, Dr. Bates. I think, in fact, that's very, very rude indeed. But as I was saying, the telescope must be mounted on top of the tripod, and you have to wait until it's very dark, and once it's very dark, then you can point your telescope up at the star, and hopefully zoom into the star, and bingo, Bob's your uncle, you can see that star very clearly.
And how long have you been doing the show then, Patrick?
Well, I've been doing the show at the Sky at Night now for about 50 years, which is a tremendously long time, but I have to say I've enjoyed every single moment of it. It's absolutely fantastic. I really do love looking at planets, solar systems, and particularly stars.
Now, you're probably looking at somebody's hairy star more like it, so you were.
That wasn't me.
That certainly wasn't me. It wasn't me either. Robert, was that you?
Yes, Mr. Peter, I think I need someone to take me to the toilet, so I am in, but, oh, Jesus, I better go to the toilet.
I thought we were going to go the whole day without this shaking match. Make sure you give us ours a good wait. Sorry about that, listeners, but Robert, I think he must have had one of Anna Lowe's Chinese last night.
Don't think so. My Chinese are never open on a Monday.
Right, okay. But, Anna, would you be into the stars and...
No telescope, no look at star. I don't look at stars, you know. I only look at the moon.
Jerry Adams, would you be looking at anything through a telescope?
Well, there's a couple of things that I would be looking at through a telescope. In my early days, I'd have been looking through a telescope to see where the British forces were. But, no, I have a pair of binoculars. It's smelling for me. I think you could go and waste them. Jerry, there's no need for that lip, you sticky bastard. You're picking on everybody but yourself. As I was saying, I have a pair of binoculars, and I would do a bit of bird watching.
And what sort of birds would you be looking at, Jerry?
Well, I like tits, and tits are my favourite, and I am a tit man, I have to say that.
Ain't Tyson?
Yes, well, I'm into breasts, robin red breasts. I think they're a very nice little bird. Just like Jerry, he's into the tits. I would like the odd tit as well, coming up to the window. And sometimes I see two tits sitting on the windowsill, and they're lovely to look at. I'd love to get close enough to stroke, but unfortunately, once I get out of my bed to try and stroke the tits, they seem to disappear. But yes, I like tits.
Jerry fit? Oh, I like hens. And I like a sort of bird that you feed them up, cook a bastards after you've fed them up, and at least you're getting something back. And these tits and wrens and robin redbreast, what the fuck do they mean? You can't get a meal out of them. You know what I mean? All you do is waste money throwing seed at them. Willie McRae.
Well, I don't like birds. I'm more into cats. I like pussy cats. I'm an animal man, but I like pussies. I don't really like birds at all, because they really don't do an awful lot for me. But I have a pussy in the house, and I would stroke that pussy each and every night, and you can hear it going grrr, like that there, and it's purring, that's what it is, it's purring. And I just know that I'm satisfying that pussy.
And Simon, like a bit of pussy?
No, actually, I don't like pussy at all. I don't like birds either, I have to say. My favourite animal would have to be a fish. I just love fish, so I do.
You like a smelly fish, don't you?
Well, the smell of fish doesn't really bother me, Jerry. I don't mind the smell of fish. I love eating fish. And if it's nice and fishy, I'll eat it.
When your luck's in the night, son, I'll see you after the show. Right, Jerry, there's no need for that. Now we're going to speak to Robert again. Robert's just come back. Are you all right?
Yes, sorry about that there.
Well, Robert, we were talking about birds and that. What would your favourite bird be?
Well, I don't like birds. I just like dogs.
Yes, is that all you can attract? Maybe that was a wee bit unkind there, Robert. But anyway, Prince Charles, what would be your favourite animal?
But I have to say that I really do like horses. I think they're an absolutely fantastic specimen.
That's a right fucking horse you married there, I have to say.
Really, Jerry, I don't think that's really called for, to be honest. Camilla and I have a very beautiful relationship, and she certainly doesn't look like a horse.
Well, I'll tell you something. I think it's an insult to a horse. I think horses are gorgeous, especially when they win. You have about 20 fucking grand on them. But Camilla, George, I have to say, she is a horse.
Right, okay. And Prince Charles, any other animals apart from horses?
I like the odd pheasant, and shooting pheasants is...
Well, I think it's very cruel, shooting a me bird.
But Jerry, you were talking about eating hens and cocks earlier on.
I never mentioned about eating cocks or hens. Talking about eating chickens. I wouldn't eat a cock. Fucking sure I wouldn't. Simon might, but I wouldn't. Aidan Paisley, no doubt that you will have something to say about Jerry Adams calling Camilla a horse.
Yes, I agree. I think she is a horse. But I have never agreed with Jerry Adams in my life. But I have to say, Prince George, she is a horse. Look, I really think it's everyone has been very, very unpleasant and very, very bad-mannered. And I really don't have to sit here and accept that sort of childish behavior.
Well, why don't you fuck off, big ears? PS9 to go outside her front door and check and see if there was a dead body lying in her street. Now, here to talk about this is the Chief Constable, Hugh Ward. Hugh Ward, this is bordering on ridiculous.
Oh, really, no, I don't think that's the truth of the matter. What the PS9 did do was ring this particular lady to make sure that there wasn't a dead body outside her street, because we, the security forces, didn't want to go into that situation because we were fearing for members of the PS9 and indeed the army. So we really did use that woman to go and do your dirty work for you, Hugh. No, Dr. Paisley, that's not necessarily true. What we did do was we contacted the lady. The lady said she agreed that she would go out and check and see if there was a dead body out in her street.
And all the time, you were sitting in Castlereagh drinking fucking coffee, scratching your black bollocks. You were sending a potential voter of mine to go out and check to see if there was a dead body lying in the fucking street. Now, Hugh Ward, that is bordering on sheer laziness, unprofessionalism, and downright audacity to get someone else to do your dirty work.
Well, Mr. Adams, I really don't think that is the case. I'm trying to explain to you that the lady did agree that she would go and check the body to see if it was a dead body, and really that's the matter resolved and the matter over.
Martin McGuinness, have you anything to say?
Well, I certainly do, because we later discovered that it wasn't a dead body, it was actually Jerry Fetland drunk. So I have to say that the PS9 and Mr. Hugh Ward and that the officers that was involved that made the call should be sacked, and they should have their contracts terminated. I think it's an absolute disgrace.
Well, Willie McRae, have you got to say anything in defence of the...
Oh, well, absolutely. I think the PS9 are doing a fantastic job for all of the people in Northern Ireland, even the Catholics, and that's saying something. But I want to say this here. Why does Sinn Féin always want to have a public inquiry? If one of their school children have a fucking fleeing school, they have to have a public inquiry. Why is everything public inquiry, public inquiry? It's like your woman, the education minister. All you get out of her is proposals, proposals, proposals. Why don't Sinn Féin just realise that sometimes the PS9 just don't have the resources to go in and check to see if it's a drunk man or a dead body?
Okay, Jerry Adams, would you like to come back at it?
Well, I think Hugh Ward should be answering that. Hugh Ward is the one, after all, that is the top cop. Why doesn't he discipline his officers? And is he going to discipline them? That's what I want to know. Well, really, Mr. Adams, what we have to do is make an investigation into whether this phone call was made. We don't know whether it was made or not, and we have to check to make sure that it was. And we're not surmising for one moment this lady has got a cuckoo clock on top of her head. We're only trying to make sure and ascertain that the officers did do what this lady said they did do, and that was to ring her in the middle of the morning.
Poor woman was probably lying on an ST. And by the way, for the record, it wasn't me lying blocked in the street. Absolutely not. I was just round the corner from that. But I also want to say that Jerry Adams has, I don't agree with him very much, but I have to say that I really do think the policeman that was involved in this should be sacked immediately. I'm a fake pay. And we're going to ask Simon about this. Simon, what's your opinion on this? If the policeman rang you at that time of the morning and asked you was there a dead body in the street, would you go out and look?
Certainly not. If the policeman was to ring me at that time in the morning, I would say, just come on round here and let yourself in. That's what I would say. But, no, I wouldn't have went out at that hour of the morning to check to see if somebody's either drunk or dead. Absolutely not. I think the police, I know they do have a hard time of it, and I know they have got their resources stretched. There's a few other resources I would like to stretch as well, but the less said about that, the better. But I think, yes, the PS and I have a difficult job, and I think also Mr. Adams should lay off the back all this independent inquiries and all that there. That costs an absolute fortune, and it's the taxpayer that has to pay for it. And not only that, the taxpayer and the way things are going at the minute with the credit, there's absolutely no money in the coffers for independent inquiries.
Okay, and hello?
You know, I think sometimes the police force get a very hard time, you know, in Northern Ireland. And for someone, all the time, see people lying around drunk, you know, lying on middle of the street. And I think Mr. Adams been very hard on Mr. Odd.
I really do appreciate that, NLO, and yes, I'm glad to see that someone realizes that our officers are trying to do their job, and we're not trying to duck out of this. We are going to carry out the inquiry and make sure that those officers will be disciplined. Whether they get removed from the force or not is another matter.
Yes, I think this will run on and on. Robert, do you think police were right to ring?
Yes, because they could have put a bomb under that body, and then when the policemen go to move a body, they get blew to bits, and that's not right, that's not. So I think why did the lady go out and look in the first place? And then the next thing she wants to ring us solicitors? I don't think it's right what she's done.
Yes, thank you very much indeed, Robert, for that. Hugh Ward, of course, another thing we'd like to talk to you about is about this arms find up in North Belfast. 70 handguns, rifles, and quantity of ammunition. It certainly indicates that the PS9 are on the job. So who owned the guns and the ammunition?
Well, it's very early in the inquiry at the moment, but we believe that from the UVF, and those guns now are off the streets of Northern Ireland, and we're delighted with the find.
Well, let me tell you something, Hugh. Do you not think it was something to do with somebody making a phone call and telling you exactly where they are? Because there's no point in bombing and bragging. And you're searching every house throughout the island, and you're somehow just stumbling across these weapons. The UVF must have phoned you up and said, look, there's weapons there. That's their way of decommissioning. You don't use your thick head. That's their way of saying, go you and lift the weapons.
I think our constables and the PS9 General are doing a fantastic job, and they're doing all the research, and they are doing house-to-house inquiries, and that is what is happening.
Right, Hugh, well, I'm not worried about the guns and the weapons and all that shit there. What I want to ask you is, what about this bit of fluff you have on the side? You have a little girlfriend knocking about there. What's the crack with her? You were doing the marathon, and now all of a sudden you're giving her one.
Well, really, Jerry, I don't think that's any of your concern. That's a private matter, and one which I haven't been invited to this studio to talk about my personal life.
We'd all like to know about this, but the fluff you have, Hugh Ward, I think it's a disgrace. You're not exactly laying an example of a top policeman in Northern Ireland who was in a relationship and then decided to do the dirt. I think it's abysmal what you've done.
Jerry Adams, would you like to make a comment there?
Well, I think it's a disgrace as well. I mean, we're all very loyal to our partners and our wives, and of course here we have Hugh Ward, one who has paid jobs on our island, and of course he's out flog of the log or something else, and I think it's disgraceful. You should be showing an example to all our young children.
Really, I don't really see where this is going.
Well, I want to say this here to you, Hugh. I should know I'm a man of cloth. I'm a man of the Bible. and I disagree with what you're doing. I think you should tell that dame to get lost. I don't think it's very right for an honest man in an honest job to be doing something as dishonest as what you're doing with some bit of fluff on the side.
Simon?
Well, you know something, see, to be honest with you, I think it's all coming down to jealousy again. It's pure unadulterated jealousy. If Hugh Ord wants to put his truncheon somewhere else, it's up to him. I don't think it's up to Mr. Adams, Jerry Fitt, or anybody else to dictate to what Mr. Ord does. If he wants to go and do whatever he's got to do, he does it. It's as simple as that. We're all just like not infallible, you know.
Yes, okay. And Robert?
Well, I think he's a dirty bastard for doing that because his other girl from his niece, and then this other one that he's got, she's a dog, so she is, and I think he should get rid of her.
Prince Charles, would you agree with what Hugh Ord has done?
Well, absolutely not. You know, I think it's a very difficult situation in which one is involved in. You know, Mr. Ord and the like of myself is in a position of high esteem. It's very difficult to try and keep these women away from trying to get their claws into one's back. So I do see where he's coming from.
What are you talking about, Big Ear? She done a dirt and dirty day, or Liddy day. She done a dirt and us, right? So you did.
You were sticking your crown jewels into something else, that horse that you're married to now. You're one to talk about anybody doing that dirt.
Jerry Adams, what do you think of what Ain Paisley said?
Well, it's one of these programs where I seem to be agreeing with most of my old enemies. And Ian Paisley's right. How dare Prince Charles try and wash his hands and make us think that he never done anything untoward. And we all know pretty too well that he was putting his crown jewels into a filly. I want to say that Hugh Ord and Prince Charles should both hang their head in shame.
Hugh Ord? Well, really, I'm very disappointed that I was invited into the studio today to talk about other matters which relate to the ceasefire and the troubles in Northern Ireland. And to find that my own personal life has been watched in public is an absolute disgrace. And I'm very disappointed that the producers and directors of the show didn't warn me in the first place, for otherwise I don't think that I would have been participating in this program.
Sammy Wilson, the roads minister, has been caught with no tax or no M.O.T. Very interesting, the roads minister there being caught with no tax and no M.O.T. What do you say to that, Jerry Adams?
Well, I have to say, I think it's a lot better being caught with no M.O.T. or no tax as it was for to be caught in the south of France with no knickers on. It's absolutely repulsive. And here we have the roads minister trying to dictate the law to all the rest of the population, but getting all he can run around, riding his motorbike with no tax and no M.O.T. And there's a blatant hypocrisy on behalf of Sammy Wilson and the representation of the Democratic Unionist Party.
Willie McRae, what have you got to say about that latest breaking news?
Well, I'm absolutely shocked that Sammy has been caught with no tax and caught with no M.O.T. But I have to say, at least he was insured. He did have insurance, I know that. And at least that's something. And he was trying to take the bank down. He was taking it down to the M.O.T. centre to try and get it to pass.
Yes, we know that, Willie, but technically he was still breaking the law.
I want to get this here sorted out here and now. And I want to ask this question. How come whenever you're allowed to put your car or your motorbike on the road to take it down to the M.O.T. centre, how come you're allowed to do that? But getting all of it fails, you're going to get hammered on the way back by the police or the traffic branch for not having any M.O.T. How else are you meant to bring your vehicle down to the M.O.T. centre? Not unless you carry it on your back.
But then, of course, there's a trailer used for a motorbike.
Well, maybe Sammy didn't have a trailer. How do we know that he didn't have one? Or how do we know he did? It's just an impossibility. I think the law needs to be a wee bit more flexible.
Aye, when it comes to members of the UFP. What about the likes of we and Sinn Féin? We always get done for everything and anything that's going with it. So there's no point in saying there should be one law for the Democratic Unionists and one law for the Sinn Féiners. I mean, why should you get away like and we don't? Right, well, we're going to ask Anna Lowe. Anna Lowe, what do you think of what Sammy Wilson has done?
I think it's very poor, Sammy Wilson, you know. He's a road minister, you know, and for him to break a law, he should be done for that, you know.
Hold on a second, Anna. Hold on a second. You don't know the circumstances of what happened to Sammy and what documents he had and what documents he didn't have. So you can't just go and berate somebody when you don't know the details.
I'm only going by what the press has said, and the press say Sammy Wilson was no M.O.T. and not no tax on his motorbike. So he's breaking the law, you know.
Right, we're going to go to Simon. Simon, what do you think of what Sammy's done?
Well, it's curiosity for me. I would just like to know if Sammy was riding his motorbike bareback. Because I'd like to have seen that there. But no, at the end of the day, it's just like every other individual. If he's found with no tax and no M.O.T., he should have done so. He should. Because I would get done for it. I would get done for no M.O.T. and no tax. So if it's slap it up him, it's a bit of a slapper.
Right, thank you very much indeed, Jerry Fit. Well, the cops have got fuck all to do nowadays, and their problem is they're running around and picking on any individual at all for any. See, if he's caught throwing a fake butt down on the ground, you're going to get done for it. If your dog is shaking in the middle of the street, you're going to get done for it. And I want to know how the fuck you meant to lift dog shade up after them if you're blind. Explain that one to me. And I also want to say that the PSNI really want to sort themselves out, because at the end of the day, there's a job to be done. We have the threat of the real IRA. Why aren't they tackling that issue? Instead of going around and giving tickets out for dogs shaking in the street and people throwing fake butts about. Right, okay, Jerry, thank you very much indeed. Now, Hugh Ward, you've had a bit of a run-on against the law yourself, if you don't mind us upcasting about that. And, of course, that was an incident in 2005, whenever you were going to visit a police station in Macrofelt, and would you believe you were going there to talk about motoring offences, whenever, in fact, the vehicle you were in was out of tax. So what have you got to say to that?
Well, I know that sometimes these things happen, and it was I think it was overlooked, and we really have to address the problem. I couldn't really check the tax disc in a car that I'm going to be running around in, but at the same time, yes, I understand that the law was broken, and what we're trying to do is redress that problem.
But you were never done for us, Hugh Ward, were you?
No, I wasn't.
Why was that?
Well, I really don't know.
Let me tell you something, Hugh. You and the dogs in the street and everybody here in Northern Ireland know exactly why you weren't done for it.
Well, I'm going to ask Martin McGuinness, what does he think of it?
Well, I have to say it's absolutely despicable that the likes of the Chief Constable, Sir Hugh Ward, could drive about the Mid-Ulster to talk about motor offences when his own car wasn't even taxed. It is an absolute disgrace, and only Hugh Ward could get away with it.
Well, to turn the table slightly on yourself, I'd like to say to you, Martin, what about Sinn Féin's Alex Maskey, who handed back a Motability car after he was driving into a bit of a row on how ethical it was for him to be using the vehicle. What have you got to say about that?
Well, I have to say that Alex was actually driving that car for a disabled driver.
Well, who was that disabled driver?
Well, that's to be determined. And I don't think it's any of our business either. But I don't see why you're bringing Alex Maskey into this whenever Hugh Ward's offence was certainly a lot more serious.
Robert?
Well, I don't know whose fault it is, but why should you have tax on your car when you're getting taxed for everything else in this earth? I think it's an absolute disgrace that everybody gets taxed. I don't get taxed in my car because it's a special car.
Yes, and what is so special about your car?
Well, it's an environmentally friendly car, so it is. It doesn't use much fuel, and you don't need tax on it, and you don't even need insurance on it. It's a very special car, so it is.
Well, could you tell me in which sort of way it's special? Cardboard cutout, for fuck's sake. That's what you're talking about. Now, please, Jerry, hold on a second. Go ahead, Robert.
You must have seen my car. It is a cardboard cutout, but it's my car. It's special for me, so it is.
Right, well, thank you very much indeed for that, Robert. And at that point, we're going to leave that topic for now. Excuse me, Dr. Paisley, I don't know whether you realise or
actually live on air at the moment.
Oh, fuck, sorry about that. Sorry about that. I still wouldn't mind getting a look at that fanny of hers.
Please, Dr. Paisley. As you know, we have been following the progress of the UDR, or the Royal Irish Regiment, who are going to be parading in the streets of Belfast. We have already had a lot of opposition from Sinn Féin, obviously, and of course the DUP are very much in support of the parade for the soldiers coming back from Afghanistan. First and foremost, Jerry Adams, I'd like to ask you what your opinion is on the soldiers parading through the streets of Northern Ireland.
Well, I have to say I'm absolutely disgusted that the Brits are coming back to haunt the streets of Ireland again and to publicly display their colours and insult the nationalist people on this island. So why don't they fuck off Afghanistan or Iraq and just stay there and leave us people here, the nationalist people on this island, alone. We don't want to see them running around with their guns on the streets of this island. I'm sorry for you to run around the streets with your fucking guns, isn't it, Jerry?
Right, please, Dr. Paisley, calm it down here. But we want to go to Martin McGuinness on this. Martin McGuinness, what have you got to say on this parade here in Northern Ireland and indeed in Belfast?
Well, I have to say that, my colleague Mr. Adams has said, I'm disgusted that, again, the Brits are coming out to rub salt into the wounds of the nationalist people on this island. And I think it's about time that the British Prime Minister realises that it's been a huge mistake. It's going to cost over 300 or 400,000 pounds to police it, and I think it's an absolute waste of taxpayers' money.
Right, well, we want to go to Willie McRae. Willie McRae, you're obviously very much in support of the troops parading in the streets of Belfast. What have you got to say about this?
Well, I have to say I'm absolutely delighted that the troops are going to be parading around the streets of Belfast. But I want to say, just before I come to what you're asking me, I was in a place called Copyright, which is in the inn shops in Belfast, to get something like 30,000 T-shirts with Union Jacks printed on them. And I have to say the lad Stevie done a fantastic job. But I have to also say, he said to me that a lot of T-shirts were being made for Jerry Adams, and he was getting actually 35,000 T-shirts done. So I said to Stevie, Stevie, I tell you what to do. Scrap the fucking T-shirts, do you sell petrol? And unfortunately, he didn't sell petrol.
Well, thank you very much indeed. I'm sure Stevie out of Copyright are very pleased of that plug. But we want to ask, first and foremost, the Hugh Ward. Hugh Ward, this is going to cost the guts of over £500,000. Why?
Well, we have to put on the security for the soldiers. We don't want them being attacked. And
but what about the Fenians that's going to be there protesting? You're not worried about guarding the Fenians. All you're worried about is looking after the Brits. Is that right, Hugh?
Well, no, we're trying to look after all sides and all sections of the community in Northern Ireland, and it's very difficult to try and police this sort of thing whenever you have opposition in the form of the nationalists. And, well, I think that a lot of people in Northern Ireland are very aware that the homecoming is very much welcomed by the biggest majority of people in Northern Ireland, and that has to be protected in every shape or form. And hello?
Hold on, I'm too busy taking my knickers down to show Mr. Posey my family.
Please, Anna, knock that in the head. Gentlemen, that is it for now here tonight, but we have to close it here and call it an end. Good night, and God bless. And finally, just to finish the program off, we are going to devote a little bit more time to the Kredit Krunch, which of course has been sweeping the nation and indeed the rest of the world. Ain Paisley, I want to ask you first and foremost about the thought of Gordon Brown going to bail out all the banks in England, Scotland, Wales, and indeed in some cases in Northern Ireland. What is your response to that?
Well, I have to say it's a disgrace what Gordon Brown has done. Here we have these highfalutin business executives who are getting an absolute fortune of the innocent people here in Northern Ireland. Their savings have been stolen from under their noses, and then the banks have the cheek and the audacity to get Gordon Brown to try and bail them out, and not only that, they're getting the public purse to bail them out. So I think it's an absolute disgrace, and people should, as soon as they possibly can, get all their savings out of the bank, cash in all their pensions, and leave the banks skint. That's what I think they should do. Jerry Adams?
Well, I have to say these bankers have took advantage. What they done in Ireland and the Republic of Ireland I have to say, is commendable, where they said that no one's pensions or accounts are going to be affected by this global credit crunch. So I'm delighted that they have done that, but I wish Gordon Brown would take the same sort of stance with all the with all the bankers here and on this island. Martin McGuinness?
Well, I have to say that I'm absolutely disgusted as well that all these these bankers. I just read in the paper the other day, The Sun, after sort of masturbating over page 3, it turned to page 7, and there was these bankers all going to Italy, spending £500,000 on champagne, caviar, the best of steaks, and all of that. They have £500,000 that they spent, leaving all different various parts of the country, and going over and whining and dining, while the rest of the country and the pensioners are struggling to try and light their fire and heat their houses. And I think the bankers should hang their head in shame. And we know we've used that term today quite a lot, but I really do think they should be disgusted with themselves.
Willie McRae?
Well, I want to say this here, I'm absolutely flabbergasted that the likes of Gordon Brown can just say to these these bankers, we will bail you out. We know you robbed the people left, right and centre with all the high interest charges. And if anybody made a late payment, the letter was costing £50 for an envelope and a bit of paper and a stamp. And then they had the audacity to try and get Gordon Brown to be bailed out for and on behalf of all the people here in Northern Ireland and indeed the rest of Great Britain. They want us to pay for the bankers, for the mistakes that they have made. It's an absolute disgrace. And I think every one of those bankers should be investigated. And if there's anything untoward, they should be put in jail where they belong.
Now, Simon, you want to make some sort of comment about the banks and indeed the FSA?
Yes, I do, because let me tell you something. See, the FSA, I think the FSA should be investigated, so I do. Because I think the FSA stands for Fuck Savings Accounts. Because everybody's savings accounts has been badly affected by it. It's terrible what they've done to the Northern Rock. And I just think it was about time that the government stood up for itself and started to say to all these bankers that you are just going to have to suffer the consequences of what you've done. You are all riding high there about a year and a half ago now. Everything has literally gone to the wall. The shit has hit the fan. And now they're all doing a runner. And I'd